Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Mystic Podcast, and I'm your host Rahul N. Singh. Thank you for taking out the time today to either watch or listen to this podcast episode. Today we will be continuing on with my thoughts on the Bhagavad Gita, but before we do begin, there's a few things I would like to announce. Please do give your support to the Bearded Mystic Podcast by signing up to the podcast Patreon page for ad-free and bonus episodes and other benefits depending on the tier that you select. Details are in the show notes and video description below. On Saturdays at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time, there is a free virtual meditation session along with discussion and Q&A. You can find the details in the show notes and video description below if you're interested in meditating with us as a community. Please like, comment and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on your favourite podcast streaming app, please give this podcast a 5-star rating and do review the podcast and follow or subscribe to get future episodes. So today we will be beginning with chapter 9 and we'll be looking at verses 1 to verse 5. Let's start with verse 1. Sri Bhagavan spoke to Arjun. Because you are never jealous of my opulence and you are sincere, I will share these supreme secrets with you. By realizing this divine knowledge, you will become immune to anything that could otherwise cause you harm. Let's break this verse up. Sri Bhagavan spoke to Arjun, because you are never jealous of my opulence and you are sincere, I will share these supreme secrets with you. First of all, we can understand here that Sri Krishna wants to make it clear that Arjun has some great qualities. One, he is never jealous. Arjun doesn't seem to have any sort of jealousy about the greatness of others, and especially Sri Krishna. And this is one thing that we need to note within ourselves. Do we have jealousy for anyone that is higher than us in terms of spiritual progress or further ahead in the spiritual progress? This can creep in without us even knowing. Whenever we find there is an aversion of some kind in terms of learning from someone, we can find that happening. So it's great psychological insight from Sri Krishna that can show you what happens to a disciple when they are in the company of a true teacher, in the company of a true spiritual friend, and what that can entail, and how the seeker or the devotee can get feelings of, like I said, aversion, of disillusionment, of jealousy, and that can hinder our progress. We also know Arjun adores Sri Krishna. This is obviously highlighted in one of the most famous stories that are told in the Mahabharata. Duryodhana and Arjun come to see Sri Krishna and he's having an afternoon nap, and basically Duryodhana sits near the head of Sri Krishna and Arjun sits near the feet of Sri Krishna. And when Sri Krishna wakes up, he asks them, what are they here for? And they both are looking for help in the war from Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna gives the choice of either his really strong army from his own land or himself. And he asks Arjun to pick because Arjun was the first person he saw when he woke up, because Arjun was at his feet. But that also shows Arjun's humility, that he didn't feel that he was at the same level, and he also respected Sri Krishna. And in India, in Indian culture, it is very important that whenever we are in the company of not elders, but people who are wiser, it doesn't matter how old you are, it's about wisdom. Whoever you feel you can learn from, which can be literally everybody, you sit at their feet. Even the Upanishads is sitting at the master's feet, is what it really can mean. So, anyway, back to the story. Sri Krishna asks them what they want, and Arjun says, I want you, Sri Krishna. And Duryodhana laughs, and he's like, you choose one person, I wanted to pick the army anyway. And this is an army of thousands. And this goes to show that Arjun really does adore Sri Krishna. And it's not something that's just happened now. It's from a long time. And that shows his level of respect. Even though he may not have intuited what his decision would have brought, but it certainly shows that he was a lot wiser than people make him out to be. Anyway, back to the verse, that Arjun absolutely adores him, and it's really obvious. Most of all, Arjun has been a sincere seeker with his questions and has not pretended to be anything else. He's not pretended to be enlightened, he's not pretended to be something else really strong, he's never disregarded anybody. He's held everyone, even those against him, in high regard. And this is something to note, because not everyone can deal with their enemies in the same way. With Arjun, you can see, even with his questions to Sri Krishna, they've been very valid, even though they may seem critical of Sri Krishna. Like, for example, when he tells Sri Krishna, you've only killed demons, you never killed your gurus or your family members like you're asking me to do. Even with that, there's a sincerity to it, there's an honesty to it. Also, his ability to be open with his mental state. How many of us are willing to admit that things are not okay in our lives? But Arjun does this in the midst of a war, where he is meant to fight now. That's his whole job, is to fight as a warrior. And in this battle, he's talking about feeling low and talking about giving up. Who does that? Then, when he accepts Sri Krishna as a guru, then he asks these questions so he can understand deeply. How many of us, if we did ask a spiritual question, don't even do any follow-up? And we then don't even care about how much we've achieved or how much we've learned. And actually, normally our follow-up questions tend to determine how much we've actually learned. It's only in enlightenment, at the end of our journey of awakenings, that we end up going towards silence. But before that, most of us, not all, but most of us will ask follow-up questions. So I want us to appreciate Arjun here, and just like Sri Krishna is doing. Like I said, sometimes we may voice our grievances and hold back, but Arjun doesn't do that. That's why I think Arjun is a lot wiser, he is smarter, he's intelligent, and his sincerity speaks volumes. And due to this, the secrets are going to be shared with Arjun because he has earned it. This is the one thing that people don't understand, especially in the bhakti circles. People think, oh, if I have devotion, if I just surrender, I'll get everything. No, you have to earn that. And it's determined by how much you use your intellect in the beginning. Surrender happens afterwards. Before that, there's a whole work of the mind to address, to deal with. And this is why Arjun has earned it, while a lot of us, I don't think we deserve this type of knowledge, because we're not willing to do the work beforehand. We just expect that, oh yeah, we just say to a master, to a spiritual teacher, yeah, we offer our life to you, we will do whatever you say, but really we want to do our own thing, like deal with life in the way we want, but then expect to attain every fruit or reward possible in the spiritual journey. It doesn't work that way. In the second part of the verse, he says, by realizing this divine knowledge, you will become immune to anything that could otherwise cause you harm. First of all, once he has this divine knowledge, which he's already been given, but there's going to be more emphasis on this knowledge of Brahman, then whatever comes his way will never harm him. Ultimately, when he has this knowledge of Brahman, when he understands it, when he abides in it, nothing will harm him, because he's not the body and mind, because that's a changing reality. He is that witness consciousness which is changeless. Now, the harshest reactions could occur to him, but they will not touch him. They will not modify his behavior, modify the way he feels. They will not harm him in any way. They will not touch him in any way. They will not blemish his character in any way. These are the guarantees that Arjun is getting, and so are we if we pay heed to the knowledge, if we pay attention to the knowledge, if we understand the knowledge. The one thing also that I find that happens in bhakti a lot, and there's a reason why I'm talking about bhakti a lot, because the Bhakti chapters are about to arrive, one thing I want to mention is that true Bhakti also means that you first understand the knowledge and that you get away from physical worship, idol worship. And I don't mean idol worship just in terms of murtis actually. I'm on about worship in terms of the physical form alone. Like sometimes we think the physical form of the Guru should be worshipped. No. This is, again, spiritual immaturity. I'm not saying don't appreciate the Guru's form, because without the Guru you wouldn't be where you are. But what I'm saying is the knowledge should be supreme. The knowledge is what you follow. The Gyan is what you follow. The Gyan is everything. This should be our insight. Also, if you're reading the Gita, it's not simply just reading the Gita or reading any of the scriptures. It's about practicing the teachings, putting it into our lives, experimenting with the teachings, seeing if they work, see what works for us, see what doesn't. Because not all of us are going to go down the path of bhakti. Not all of us are going to go down the path of Gyan. Not all of us are going to go down the path of selfless service. Not all of us are going to go down the path of meditation. Every one of us may have a mixture of all four, or a mixture of two, or just follow one. Whatever works for you is what matters. There's no right or wrong way. And that's the message I want to give on the podcast. Even though my focus is more Gyan and a bit of bhakti and a bit of meditation and a bit of selfless service, seva, but most of all, you got to find your own. The other thing I want to say about this is that Shri Krishna also is telling Arjun that remember what I'm telling you. One, you're going to be immune to any harm in terms of if you get hurt in this, remember it's only happening to the body, not to your real self. And also, if you're doing an action and you let go of the doership, remember you're not going to get the reactions to that karma. Now, what he means by that is, it's not that the body and mind will not face the consequences. It may do so. But because your intellect is so strong, because you're established in Brahman, it will not harm you the way it would harm somebody else. Yeah, you could do the same actions as the next person, but because you've been practicing the spiritual teachings, it will not cause you the same level of harm. Verse 2, this is the secret knowledge that is primarily given to those who rule. It is the knowledge that empowers leaders to truly protect all beings and serve in a way that is pure and beyond the corruption of tamas. This knowledge is clear, always supports dharma, brings joy to all, and is always true. Let's break this verse up again. This is the secret knowledge that is primarily given to those who rule. It is the knowledge that empowers leaders to truly protect all beings and serve in a way that is pure and beyond the corruption of tamas. Indirectly here, Sri Krishna has already made Arjun the winner of the war. He's already declared his victory, which is very interesting. But he's also telling Arjun that this is the way to lead your nation too. This is the way to lead your kingdom. He's referred to this knowledge as the royal knowledge, the Rajvidya, the royal knowledge. This is how, utilizing this knowledge is how he's got to rule. But what is the true ruler? What is really ruling everything? It's this Brahman, this shared being. Therefore, this is the knowledge of formless awareness. This knowledge of formless awareness is what makes us established in Brahman, established in the formless, makes us formless in terms of identity, if you could call it identity, but we no longer associate with the body and mind, therefore we don't associate with name and form, status, title and all this. But we rule because we serve without a title. We don't need the title. People give the title, but we don't rule from that title. We simply serve others. That's it. Now, this knowledge of Brahman is the true protector of all. If Arjun keeps note of this knowledge, he will always be protected by it. When one serves the world beyond laziness, inertia, or even expectations of some kind, one attains the love of the nation, the love of the people, the respect of the people, and people will serve you because they see that you're an honest person. They see that you're a sincere leader, a sincere ruler of the nation. Now, what it means by over laziness and inertia, what can happen when people rule, you see this in companies today, which are really the new kingdoms. You see people become lazy with their ideas. They stop caring. They do cost-cutting exercises where they stop caring about the people, and they care more about the margin of profit instead of the margin of happiness. This is what happens. That's laziness and inertia. Yeah. When you start seeing that, for example, right now we see there is the whole layoff situation. In my opinion, this is the corruption of thumbs. This is laziness from these companies. If you're not losing money, in terms of if you're not in losses, why are you letting people off? You should allow people to work for you as long as you're earning profit. What's your issue? And a lot of these companies, okay, maybe some of them are facing difficulties, but a lot of them are still earning billions in profit, and they're paying zero taxes. So that is what Sri Krishna is talking about here. Anyone that is doing these things, you can see they are lazy. The other aspect of laziness is that there is a big disparity in income. So you see a lot of CEOs earning millions, and you see the lowest pay worker in the company earning a couple of thousands. They're just earning 5 digits. And in the lower end, we're talking about $15,000, $20,000 or pounds. In my opinion, there shouldn't be such a big disparity. So that's also laziness, where we don't have proper structure. These are the things to note, where we can adapt this to the modern day life. So if you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur, that's how you apply the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. It's not about being a poster person of, oh, look, I'm following the Gita, I'm following the messages of Sri Krishna, look at me, while I rake in millions and let everyone else earn peanuts. That is not it. Or you earn money on the back of other people, paying for like courses and stuff, and yet you're not really giving them anything that's truly tangible in terms of you're not helping them actually spiritually. For example, there is a very popular YouTuber, podcaster, I won't mention the name out of respect. They have this coaching academy or coaching thing. Now, how many of the people are actually getting coached by that person? I doubt it. And the reason why I doubt it is because I've not heard one person today say, well, I come from that school where I got coached by that person. The one thing that I wanted to do with this podcast, with my podcast, or with the YouTube community, is that if anybody comes to me for help and they want to be coached, one, I should always be available for that. And, you know, there may be a time when one cannot do that. For example, I think with that YouTube personality or podcast personality, I think now it gets to a point where it's difficult. So if you are putting a paywall there, what my issue was with the paywall is really, it's not that person messaging you. It's basically like an AI bot that is literally messaging you, not that person. So for me, what it is, the person has to be there. If I am to do this one day, a spiritual coaching academy, then I would expect myself to be the person that is leading it, and I should be the one that helps you personally. And not only that, but there's follow-up from me. It's not literally you do the course or you do the program and then I forget about you. No. Even if, say, at one point I'm the coach and the other person is learning, well, even if we become peers at the end of the day, if we both become coaches, which should be the goal anyway, is that this should multiply. I should be able to coach people who then will help others, and they should have their own system. In fact, it'd be even greater if they're more successful than me. That should be the way it works. And when I say this about, obviously, these people that are huge YouTube stars in the spiritual circles who've utilized the Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads or non-duality or anything like that. But the other side is, especially gurus today in spirituality, especially them, how many of your people are enlightened? Not people who just say they're enlightened, actually are enlightened. And how many of them have you turned into gurus? That should be the real test. If you still have disciples, in my opinion, there's a problem. This has to be addressed, not only in the spiritual circles, but even those that have taken a step back from being spiritual gurus but are more like coaches, or who made it more of an entrepreneurial thing. Even with you, how are you creating more coaches? Like, really? And that you have a code of ethics to support it. You know, it's not necessarily that this person can go wild. These are the things to look at. This person is not corrupted by finding shortcuts and looking for ways to bypass the system. No, that's not the real ruler. There are no shortcuts on the spiritual path because of how direct it is. It's simple as that. There's no shortcuts. There can be a shorter path and a more direct path, but there's no shortcuts. In terms of, to get to enlightenment, work has to be done. And then in the second part of the verse, this knowledge is clear, always supports dharma, brings joy to all, and is always true. This knowledge is about absolute clarity. It will clear all your doubts. It will address any questions you have. That's how pure this knowledge is. And if you feel that this knowledge cannot be questioned, then the knowledge you have is not perfect. This knowledge should be able to stand the test of doubt completely. And then it supports dharma, meaning the path towards righteousness. So always you will be following that path of righteousness. Whatever is right for the many, not for the few. Simple as that. It brings joy and happiness to all. Anybody you encounter loves being in your company, loves being in the company of that truth and that remembrance. It strengthens them. And it is eternally true, like I said, beyond doubt. And will never disappear or leave. It cannot leave you in any way. It cannot disappear in any way. It's eternally static. You could put it that way. And nobody can take this knowledge from you. Nobody. Not one person. You can lose it if you don't abide in it. But nobody can take it away from you. There's no a magic mantra where someone will say something and suddenly you lose that Brahm Gyan or you lose that wisdom. No, you or me, ourselves, we can bring ourselves down and we can lose that wisdom, but that wisdom does not leave us. Then verse 3, those persons who cannot stay in a state of Shraddha and focus upon the invisible yet essential truths of Dharma cannot attain a permanent connection with me, so they stay on the path that leads to repeated birth and death through samsara. We're going to look at the whole verse itself. If we cannot remain in reverence, in faith, in deep faith to Brahman, then we will be repeating the process of birth and death. This is true. What does reverence mean? What does Shraddha mean? It means that you are completely dedicated, completely devoted. It's an unbreakable trust that you have. This, he talks about the invisible and yet essential truths. One thing I'm just going to take a step back here. The underlying kind of truth that's there is this Nirgun Brahman, is this formless awareness, that knowledge of the revelation of that. If you are truly having that reverence towards Nirgun Brahman, you're fine. You will not go through samsara again because you are completely devoted. But a lot of us aren't. A lot of us, we use spirituality as entertainment, and that is not on. In my opinion, we are not here to be entertained. We are here to be transformed. So, a lot of people think, they attend a Jagrata, or they attend a Kirtan, or they attend like a Mahashivratri event, and they think, oh, look at the dancing, the celebrities, and all this stuff. That is all entertainment. It's got nothing to do with wisdom, got nothing to do with your self-transformation. Don't get fooled by such things. That's opulence. That's not dharma. Let's make that very clear. Dharma is Nirgun Brahman. Simple. That's the complete righteousness. So, the invisible yet essential truths of Dharma is everything related to Brahmgyan, or the insights into formless awareness, as I refer it to. Those things can be leading an honest life, being sincere in your dealings, not being corrupted in any way, not harming others. When you're doing your actions, you devote it all to this Brahman and you don't see it as the body and mind doing it. Those are some of the invisible yet essential truths that are there. But also, that you're not an individual soul, you're Brahman itself. So little things like that are the invisible truths and essential truths, or even one can say the Mahavakyas of the Upanishads can be considered to be the essential truths of Dharma. If we do not focus on this, then we will not have a permanent connection with formless awareness. Either it will be very transient, or we will not appreciate it at all. That's simply what can happen. And if you fail to have this complete reverence and faith towards the truth, we will keep re-entering samsara, this world and this universe. And if that's what we want, that's fine. But if, like me, you want this journey to come to a conclusion, and a great conclusion, then we want to end this repetition of birth and death. And we want to be free from this cycle of transmigration. And we want to enter into complete liberation whilst we're alive. Then the fourth verse. This entire Jagat is pervaded by my invisible murti, non-material transcendental form. All beings are standing within me, but I am not contained by or encompassed within them. This is very powerful. One verse which I think if a lot of the so-called bhakti traditions that follow Sri Krishna as the ultimate, if they understood this verse, their philosophy doesn't stand, in fact, because of this one verse. So let's understand what this means. Let's break this verse up. This entire Jagat is pervaded by my invisible murti, non-material transcendental form. So this entire world, this entire universe is pervaded by formless awareness. This is what it means. So formless awareness is basically what you could say the ultimate being. And that is what we worship. This is the true form. And the whole world, this whole universe is contained in it. Everything is contained in it. You could say the endless universes are within this invisible murti, this non-material transcendental form. Yeah, the only true murti that exists is this formless awareness. In fact, what gives life to the murtis that we see in the mandirs is this Nirgun Brahman, this formless awareness. This is what it is. So, if you understand what Murti Puja is, this is what Murti Puja is. When you are worshipping this formless awareness, when you're in the awareness of formless awareness, That is Murti Puja. In the true sense of the word. The true sense of the devotional act. So meditation and constant remembrance of formless awareness is the most supreme act of worship. That is true Murti Puja, as I mentioned. I want us to be clear on this. So it has to be always based on formless awareness. And I would even go to this point and say that many use murtis of brass or clay, but the true rishis use formless awareness as the true murti. This is the way we have to be. The latter. We have to be the rishis that use formless awareness as the murti, as the true form. So, like it says, invisible, it's a non-material transcendental form. Yeah, it's meant to transcend form, and it, you could say, translates to the essence. So the essence behind all of existence, behind space as well, behind emptiness, is this Nirgun Brahman, this formless awareness. Then the next part of the verse is, all beings are standing within me, but I am not contained by or encompassed within them. All beings in existence are standing within Brahman. Let's make that very clear. When I say beings, I'm also talking about the celestial bodies, this whole universe, the stars, the moon, the planets, everything. People, we are all standing within Brahman. Everything is contained within Brahman. These people or individual existences can never contain or encompass this Brahman, Nirgun or Saguna. So what that means is that whole essence, that complete essence, cannot be just in one person or in one form. It can be, we can be within this. Because remember, this is essentially unreal. This name and form, this changing body and mind, this can never, this is all within Brahman, all within the witness consciousness. We have to understand this. Even Saguna, with attributes, even then, because essentially Saguna is Nirguna. The attributes are attributeless eventually. This Brahman cannot be contained by the beings. A being cannot say, someone cannot say, well, I have the whole of formless awareness. When there is only formless awareness, how can there be two? How can there be a being and formless awareness? Or how can someone say, formless awareness is only within me, not within others? Not possible. Therefore, do not think that this existence contains Brahman. It is Brahman that allows all existence to be contained within itself. So don't think that, this universe contains Brahman. No. There's this Brahman and this universe is contained within it. It exists within it. Without Brahman, there is no world, there is no universe. Therefore, the true rishis, they see everything as Brahman because of that. Because there is no real cause to the universe. There is only Brahman. And everything else is a projection within that one. Simply. Then verse 5. This is the immense power of my yoga created by my Atma. Behold, even though all beings reside within me and are mine, I am also a separate individual being entirely apart from them. So this is very important to understand, because we have to go back to what he said in the verse about being the invisible murti. Yeah, so we have to go back to that to understand. Let's break this verse up. He says, "This is the immense power of my yoga created by my Atma." The union with Brahman means we see that this is the power of oneness. Yeah, this is the power of the yoga. This is the power of that union. And it's created by this Purusha, this ultimate reality, by this Nirgun Brahman. And this is the immense power. When you are one with all, then all is contained within you. This is what you can understand. And as Sri Krishna says rightfully so, that all is created by my Atma, meaning it is consciousness that has manifested all of this. Without consciousness, this cannot be. Think about it. Before any object of awareness, awareness is prior. Therefore, awareness is supreme. And that is what Sri Krishna means by my Atma, formless awareness, not himself. His form died physically. I've mentioned this many times on the podcast. His Atma did not remain on earth, and he never was on earth. It was everywhere. It is everywhere. That is what we are. So, what we can say is that the mind creates the world through the five senses. Either way is right. Either we say this mind has created everything, and through the five senses it projects its power, but essentially it's all unreal, because when the mind diminishes, or the five senses lose its power, there's only witness consciousness, there's only awareness. It's through that power of awareness that all this is created. That's what we need to understand, that the screen of awareness is what allows the movie of the world, of our existence, to play. Okay, that's the way to see it. Another way is to see that the base of everything is Nirgun Brahman, and everything has arisen from the imagination of Nirgun Brahman. That's another way to see it. What I've just said here is based on what I've learned in Yoga Vashisht, which I recommend that we should all learn. Maybe in the future I will look into Yoga Vashisht on the podcast and do a series on it. And then the next part of the verse is, "Behold, even though all beings reside within me and are mine, I am also a separate individual being entirely apart from them." All beings reside within Brahman and are Brahmans always. There is nothing separate to Brahman. It is all Brahman, right? But Brahman is also distinct from them all, and as awareness completely separate. Remember, this is based on Sankhya Yoga. You have the Purusha and you have Prakriti. Prakriti is nature, and Purusha is that changeless witness consciousness. So what Sri Krishna is basically showing Arjuna and us how to make it your own. Don't see it as a knowledge out there, but bring it in here. That's what he's trying to show us. If we understand this hint, we will go much further on the journey. But if we think Sri Krishna is highlighting how powerful he is, then we've lost the plot. Literally have lost the plot. The whole plot is to say, you are this reality, bring it inside of you now, and understand that is the only reality. That's what Sri Krishna is trying to do to Arjuna, and for us. It is apart from everything despite this oneness, so that everything is interconnected, but also awareness is always separate to it, because it's the only thing that really is. Everything else is just like the images on the screen. When the projector turns off, the screen remains. Yeah, so the projector can be your body, your five senses. The mind processes everything. That's the images on the screen. And then once the projector stops, the senses stop projecting, the senses stop giving information, the mind stops functioning, then all you have is awareness, the screen. There'll be no more projection, just a screen of awareness. That is essentially what Brahm Gyan, the insights into Nirgun Brahman, into formless awareness, tells us. When Sri Krishna says, "Behold," meaning, take in all of this, understand all this, bring this knowledge to your attention, even though all beings reside within me and are mine. So even though all these beings reside within you as formless awareness, they are mine as formless awareness. Not mine as Rahul, but mine as formless awareness. I am also a separate individual being entirely apart from them. And it's true on my level too, even on the body level. I cannot be you. I do not have the same experience as you. I don't have the same experience as this microphone, as this laptop. It's all separate to me. But is my awareness separate to you? No. These individual objects are separate, but not awareness. In fact, I do know that all these objects of awareness are all on an atomic level the same. So there's a oneness that interconnects us. Let's understand also that even though all of this exists, it is only one thing, which is awareness or consciousness. And it only appears to be separate when it is not. When Sri Krishna says, I'm also a separate individual being entirely apart from them, he's trying to say that is Prakriti, that's a changing reality. I am that changeless reality. That does not modify in any way. This is the supreme understanding. So let me conclude that the ultimate Murti is formless awareness, which you are. This whole existence is contained within that invisible Murti, that formless awareness. And that's what we worship. That's what our bhakti is towards. What's our devotion towards. That's what we serve in not only ourselves but in others. And also, we keep this in mind whenever we are performing actions in the world, and we remain in the awareness of formless awareness as much as possible. That is the end of the episode. Please do share this podcast with your friends and family who may enjoy this content. Do follow me on social media to keep getting updates. Join the Bearded Mystic Podcast WhatsApp community group to continue the podcast discussion. Details are in the show notes and video description below. If you would like to support the Bearded Mystic Podcast, please check out the podcast Patreon page. Details are in the show notes and video description below. Please do rate this podcast 5 stars and review the podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app or on the Bearded Mystic Podcast website. Please do like and comment on this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And please follow, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll end with the Soham and Shanti mantra. Soham, Soham, I am that, I am that. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Namaste.